Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Hey, everybody. My name is Dr. Marco Nunez, Doctor of Athletic Training. Please welcome everybody to the Waiver Wire Selection Podcast with my co-host, Landon Buford. Landon, you want to say hello?
What's going on, everybody?
Welcome, everybody.
I'll give him my credentials. I'm a freelance journalist, working for myself right now. Had stops at Forbes, Forbes.com, SI.com, and 137, which is a subsidiary of VaynerMedia.
So everybody, welcome again for our weekly podcast. Like I said, we've been trying to get it on a weekly basis. So far, we've been very successful. And our goal here is to try to give you a quick update on some of the injuries that are going on in the NBA. Oftentimes, some of these injuries, as far as the wording or the terminology used by the media or what the teams kind of put out, can be a little bit tricky, or I don't want to say misleading, but misdirected,
Yeah.
let's say something like that sort. So as a doctor of athletic training, I am an athletic trainer. I've worked in professional training for over 23 years, so I kind of understand some of the lingo. So our goal here is try to kind of give you more of an inside understanding of what's happening with some of these injuries, what a realistic timeline is for the injuries type of thing, so you can kind of better gauge who you're going to start in your fantasy basketball league, because we're pretty much getting to crunch time right now.
All right, so we're going to get started with the Pelicans. Give me 1 second, though. Zion is out 2 more weeks with a hamstring. Obviously, I know you said that they're trying to be cautious, but with a setback like that, what does that mean, in terms of the medical side of things when it comes to athletic trading and things?
Yeah, so this is what we talked about last week, and I think I brought up who was the remember, if you recall, Keenan Allen with the San Diego Chargers this past football season had the same type of injury type thing, where he had a hamstring strain on the Sunday, and they were talked about that he was questionable for Thursday. Realistically, within that week period, he wasn't going to play, and I think he tried to come back and played a couple of reps on, and then he re-aggravated the injury, and then he was out, I think, for almost a total of 8 to 9 weeks type thing. So that's the thing about, and this is the thing we've talked about before, that hamstring can be very, very tricky in the sense that the athlete can feel great. He kind of goes out there, does a move, and then kind of re-aggravates injury, can re-strain it. And once that does happen, then the sports medicine staff is going to be overly conservative when they do come back. So those standards that they set initially for when he was returning, now those standards are going to have to be a lot higher as far as everything has to be 100%. He's going to have to show that he's able to participate in practice and scrimmage for at least a week or 2 weeks with no issues, no soreness, anything of that sort. So any indication is going to probably kind of keep him out type of thing. So like I said, right now they're going to probably be super, super conservative. Again, the downside to it right now is that I think the Pelicans are still trying to get into the play-in tournament. I think they're still in that little bubble. They keep going up and down, up and down, up and down. So it's tough. So the question is, if they can hang on without Zion and get into the playoff tournament and then bring it in for that, I think that's what most likely is going to happen, unless it comes down to like the last game or 2 of the season to try to get into the playoff. They may try to bring it back. But even then, the question is going to be, and this is something that we talked about, the risk-reward in a sense. What is the risk of him going out there? Can he make it a lot worse than he's out for the rest of the season, or the rest of the offseason, meaning that we have to worry about him rehabbing the whole offseason, which potentially you can because you're going to have some time. But then you want him to excel and grow and get better for the next season type of thing, instead of kind of starting with a step back. So we'll see how he feels, and we'll see what the Pelicans do. Now, keep an eye on him. When you hear that he's returned to practice, and not just regular practice, but scrimmage, and he's scrimmaging with the team, that's a good indication that he should be ready to return pretty soon.
Okay. We talked about Alvarado last week. It hasn't been really any change with the tibula situation since he hasn't been playing. But Jalen Brunson's been out with a foot injury. I think this has been nagging him all season. I know he missed the Lakers game. I know he's missed the Blazers game. I know he missed the Clippers game. And then I would have to go back after that. But pretty much they haven't said what's wrong with his foot, but he's missed numerous games this season because of this foot problem. So I know without having a specifics what's going on but I mean, that's where you say the not misleading, but obviously they don't give enough information to go off anything.
Correct. So that's and then the other, like you mentioned, Landon, that it's difficult to try to kind of gauge as far as what's going on, because one, they haven't mentioned the type of injury, what the injury is, what structure has been injured, whether it's a stress fracture, whether it's a tendon, whether it's a ligament, whether it's some plantar fascia tightness, might be some chronic issues that he's developed in there type of thing. So we don't know. At this point, we're just kind of speculating. The downside to this is that he did try to return to play. And I think within a couple of minutes, he aggravated, or he might have just felt some discomfort and felt, hey, you know what, I can't really go. I'm not quite ready. So they had to kind of remove him type of thing. So again, when that does happen, when a player kind of goes in there and either re-aggravate an injury or they don't feel like they should be back there, now it becomes more a little bit of a mental issue for both the athlete and then for the sports medicine staff. They become a little more conservative type of thing because they want to try to put him back in there for a third time, and then he re-aggravates the injury or makes it worse or is still complaining and pain type of thing. So now his timeline is going to be a little bit longer. But as far as timeline, to give you an official timeline, we don't know because they haven't said exactly what's going on in there. So it's difficult. At this point, we're just guessing.
Okay. The Timberwolves released an official injury update for Towns' calf on Wednesday, noting that he's been participating in basketball activities. I mean, that we've seen that if you followed him on his Instagram account, he's showing some of the basketball activities he's been doing in his stories, but is expected to return in the next couple weeks.
Correct. So that's a good sign. So the fact that he's actually returning to basketball activities, and what basketball activities also include is sprinting, jumping, and landing. As long as the calf holds and he's not having any major soreness or any issues or aggravation during those basketball activities, and usually basketball activities tend to be just a one-on-one where the player goes out there and tests his movement, right? It's usually with the individual coach. They may play a one-on-one kind of activity, but it'll be with the coach. Again, if he returns within a week, we want to see him kind of return to full practice. He's been cleared for full practice, no restrictions. When that does happen, I anticipate that once that does occur, give him about 2 to 4 days, and then he should be able to return to game situations right after that.
Okay. Obviously, KD, is going to be reevaluated in 3 weeks, but they said it was reported that if this was playoffs, he would try to give it a go. So what does that mean?
Well, who's this?
Kevin Durant.
So yeah, so he probably, my understanding, he had an ankle sprain. I think they categorized him with a second-degree ankle sprain. What that's telling me is that he is at a point of his rehab that he's probably walking. He probably might be able to do some like jogging or anything of that sort. When it comes to an ankle sprain, and there's no major structure, like there's no fractures, the ligament hasn't completely been torn, it's still kind of intact. It comes down to a pain tolerance type of thing. And then what can you move? What can't you move? What can you do on that part? So, and prime example, I remember Kobe Bryant. KB used to always play with ankle sprains, and he was able to move around. He understood that there's going to be some discomfort in there. As long as you can tolerate the discomfort, then you're able to go. Again, we go back to the risk reward, just like you mentioned, just like they reported. If it was playoffs, he'd be able to go because the reward is a lot higher versus the risk. At least at this point, the Phoenix Suns believe that the risk is a lot lower than compared to the reward. Where a week ago it probably wasn't. He probably was in more pain. He probably was limping, couldn't move. Even if he tried moving, it was going to be difficult to move. They probably feel that he's able to participate in basketball and is able to move, and the pain tolerance is a lot low that he's able to kind of play. But even then, I mean, they're still in the top 4 spot right now, so they're
in the 4 spot right now. Yeah.
Okay, so as long as they stay in the top 4 and they get home court advantage for the majority of the playoffs, they're going to keep him on until they really, really need him, or until they lose that 4th spot, they end up in the 5th or 6th spot, or they end up as low as like 7th, 8th. At that point, then they can probably push him to play. At least finish off the season and try to move up.
Okay. Let me go to the Lakers because Mr. Laker was dancing around on the sidelines last night, according to a source of mine in Houston. Where's he at? LeBron, it's a foot injury, remains out, but he is able to lift some weights and shooting during Tuesday's shoot-around, according to the LA Times report. So he was doing some of that, but also he's been dancing, doing the Dougie on the sidelines, things of that nature. So how does that equivalent to him, him coming back in the next couple weeks, I guess you could say?
Yeah. So, I mean, the shooting on the court, one of the first questions I have is what type of shooting? Was he just spot shooting where both his feet were on the ground and he was kind of getting free throws, or was he actually
free throws.
Okay. So what I would like for him to see is do more spot shooting, movement shooting, one-step shooting, change of direction, kind of shooting type of thing, a little pivoting or anything of that sort. That's what I want to see once he starts doing that. If he was doing free throws, that means that's a good thing. He's able to put weight on it and he's off the boot. So that's a positive thing. That means he's progressing type of thing. So he's moving forward. So by all means, that's positive. But I'd like to see more activities for me to say, hey, you know what, actually starting to kind of return to play. So I think right now he's in a good place. He's progressing like he's supposed to be progressing. The question again is where are the Lakers in the playoff hunt right now, or at least in the play-in? I think
they're 13th right now, but it's not a normal 13. If somebody loses tonight, in the Western Conference, they could be right back up at like 9th, 8th quickly. You know what I'm saying? So it's a tight race right now.
Correct. And this is a very similar situation as he had with the high ankle sprain like 2 years ago, where they were hunting for the play-in. I think they were waiting for the team to get into the play-in tournament. Once they were in the play-in tournament, then he pretty much came back. I anticipate that the Lakers are going to do the same thing with him. They're going to be very conservative, see where they're at. Again, once it comes down to a risk-reward, if he's healthy enough to move around and they need to get into the play-in tournament, then there's a very chance that they'll kind of push him to kind of go and play. Okay. But if they're doing well, and I think you and I talked about this, they actually went 6-2 for a little eight game run there without him, so they did well there.
So, speaking of high ankle sprain, Mo Bamba has been diagnosed with that particular injury, and will be reevaluated in approximately 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So, is it safe to say, with the amount of games left, that he could be out for the season? Maybe return to the playoffs if they're able to make it to the playoffs, basically.
Correct. So a high ankle sprain, you're looking at a minimum of 4 weeks. Usually the average time is anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. It could be traditionally more to 6 to 8 weeks. So definitely with the timeline we're at right now, he's definitely out for the rest of the season. There's probably a very good chance that he'll probably be, if they make the playoffs, there's a chance that he'll be out the first round. And even if he does play, you'll probably see him not his normal self. He might be a little limping. He might be a little discomfort. They might restrict his minutes or anything like that sort of. They need him in there to try to kind of get past the first round type of thing. But yeah, a high ankle sprain, you're looking at a minimum of 4 weeks. So he's definitely out for the rest of the season. And he'll probably be a true questionable, if not probably doubtful for the first round. Okay. I expect him more likely. If they get past the first round, I see him then.
In the second round. Okay.
Correct.
Norman Powell's shoulder has been going through skeleton work and one-on-one work with the Clippers assistants before practice and games over the last few weeks. But the team won't provide an update timeline on his return until he's reevaluated on Friday. So with that being said, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, so like I said, as far as right now, he is participating with the coaches and the skeleton crew, meaning it's just himself, maybe one-on-one with the coaches. And the reason why they do that is because the coaches aren't going to go 100% against the athlete. They're going to kind of back up and allow the athlete to do what he needs to do while they're rehabbing, while they're moving, which again is a good sign. He's progressing. But again, what I like to hear or see is him actually return to full practice with the team. When that happens, then that's when he's going to be ready. Now, anticipating that this whole movement that they're doing right now, and they're testing it out, is to see how his body reacts after 24 hours of any of these activities, because they're going to reevaluate him on the 24th. That means the position's they're going to do another MRI, or he's going to see the positions, and at that point they're going to say, okay, well, based on these activities he's done, he's been cleared to go to the next stage of rehab. Now he can start doing contact activities. So right now he's what we call non-contact activities, and that's great. But we want to see it progress to contact activities, and we're hoping that by Friday, when they reevaluate him, he's cleared to go ahead and do that for the following day.
Okay. They got Draymond out, but that's because it's a possible suspension.
Yeah,
he's got 16. What's it called? He's hoping that gets rescinded for Friday's game against the Hawks. Luka remains out with this thigh injury. He didn't play yesterday because of it. Just thoughts on that. I heard it wasn't as bad as it was first reported, but what does that all mean for his return potentially?
Yeah, so I agree. I heard two things. One, I think I heard something that Luka actually mentioned that he thought it was worse than it was, and I think the report later came out saying after they did the MRI that it wasn't as bad as what they thought. So we kind of have like two little stories: him saying it's worse, the team saying it's not, type of thing. But again, it's a quad strain or hip flexor strain type of thing. a muscular strain, just like you could get a hamstring or calf strain. So it's just a matter of waiting and seeing how big the centimeters or the tear was, and that's probably determine the timeline. But a typical quad strain, if we're looking at very, very mild quad strain, looking anywhere between 10 to 14 days for him returning. If it's something more severe, we're probably looking anywhere between 2 to 4 weeks. Again, also as far as them being in the playoff hunt, and I know Kyrie Irving is also out with a foot injury, so that kind of puts a little bit way into it right now. So I know that the Mavs are struggling with their top 2 players out right now.
You mentioned Kyrie's foot injury. He's been out for a couple of days. I know he was out for a personal reason, but the foot injury was lingering him as well, so that's why he's out. Who else? Karl Anthony Towns, official. Did we already say that?
Mm-hmm.
I guess Jordan Clarkson will not play against the Heat on Monday. On Monday, according to the Salt Lake Tribune, because of a finger. He's been out for some time because of this finger issue. Just thoughts on that?
Interesting. No, as far as finger, I guess my first question is I haven't had a chance to look at if it's in the right, if it's in a shooting hand or non-shooting hand.
They don't say.
Yeah, and also they don't say what type of finger injury, whether it's just a finger sprain. He might have dislocated, popped it back in, has a sprain in one of the ligaments on that part. I mean, oftentimes some of these finger issues, you can just go ahead and tape it and they kind of go, especially if it's in their non-shooting hand versus shooting hand. So I don't know. I guess they haven't said whether it's something more severe, whether it's going to require surgery, whether it's like the ligament has completely ruptured from its location. If he has like an avulsion fracture or anything of that sort, that's a possibility. They're waiting to see if it heals on its own before he requires surgery. At the same time, I know Utah.
They're in the hunt. They're one game behind the Lakers for 11th.
For the 11th spot.
For the 11th spot, yeah.
Yeah.
They're in the 11th spot. They're one game behind the Lakers for 10th.
For 10th. Okay, so it comes down to see how he's feeling and see where they're at in a couple of days, and they have him return to play. But we'll see. It's difficult to say because they haven't said exactly what type of finger injury it is. Like I said, it sounds like it might be more severe than your typical, hey, I just popped my finger out, let's pop it back in, let's just tape it up, buddy, tape it and kind of go. If the fact that he's being out for a while, so it's a little concerning, but we'll see what the diagnosis, if they ever do actually say what it is.
Okay, so Jarrett Allen has an eye contusion, I think is what the report. It says eye injury on the injury report on ESPN, but I heard during the broadcast yesterday when they played, who did they play yesterday? Let me look at the injury report because they don't have it on there. Cleveland played Philly last night. They didn't. They said on the broadcast it was an eye contusion. So how long can he potentially be out with that particular injury?
Yeah, I mean, in that contusion is basically a bruise to the outer eye area. So he probably took an elbow or something hit him on that sort. So you probably have a nice little black eye type of thing. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes, when it comes to those type of injuries, most of the players will either wear a face mask to try to protect the surrounding area so you won't get hit again. It's pretty much the same face mask to protect the nose. It just also covers the eyes, the orbital area type of thing. The only issue is that if there's any additional damage to the eye itself, whether he has a abrasion to the eye, like he has a little tear in the eye that kind of makes it very sensitive to light type of thing. Did he injure any nerves inside the eye that he's having difficulty seeing, meaning he might have a little double vision or anything of that sort, sensitive to light. Also, I know they haven't said anything, but sometimes if you get a nice little elbow to the eye, you may also have a little bit of a concussion issue going on that part.
That's true.
They haven't said anything of that sort. So maybe the eye is the main issue, but he might have some residual issues going on with either concussion or vision type of thing. But oftentimes when it comes to just contusion, the outer area of the eye is very sensitive to touch. You just use it to wear a face mask and you're ready to go.
Okay, let me see you take one more look and see if we want to talk about anybody else. LaMelo Ball had successful surgery Wednesday to address a fracture in his right ankle. I know he's out for the season, but with that news, when can we expect him to be ready to go for next season?
Yeah, so I mean, as far as the fracture in his foot, they most likely put pins. They put screws, pins in there, and a little plate to kind of secure the bone. The great thing about putting the plate in there is that the plate itself is going to secure the bone, and that bone's going to be way stronger than any other of the bones in there. The likelihood of him breaking that bone again are very, very small compared to any other bone in his foot or his ankle type of thing. Oftentimes, once that's secure, you just have to kind of wait until the bone kind of heals completely, is secure, and he's able to kind of move around the activity. Because it's the off season and he's out for the season, they're not going to rush him. You're going to give him as much time as you want, but you expect him to at least be out of rehabbing anywhere between 1 to 2 months, and then be able to be back on the court.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of load management going on right now. So,
yeah. Well, that's the thing.
Austin Rivers is out with a back injury. I don't like it. If that's what you're going to ask me, I don't like load management. But Austin Rivers is out with a back injury. Was out against the Celtics. Just thoughts on that? They don't say exactly to the degree, but they just say back injury.
Yeah, so oftentimes the back injuries, you're probably looking at either muscular spasm, muscular tightness, and kind of create some issues in that area type of thing. I don't anticipate anything with like the spinal cord or anything like that. Although the spine itself is most likely either some like your QL muscle, one of the muscles that just either you get bruised, you get spasm, you sleep wrong, you move wrong, you did a wrong activity. And the muscle just kind of gets tied to spasms, and then gives you some discomfort and creates some immobility in your low back, and you're not able to kind of properly move like you're supposed to. And it does give you some discomfort in that part. So I anticipate right now the sports medicine staff is just treating him, trying to kind of increase some range of motion, decrease some of that pain, strengthen your core in that area, and be able to return. So I don't anticipate him out for a long period of time.
So Justin Winslow's ankle remains out indefinitely and will not play Sunday against the Magic. It happened on March 4th.
Okay, so all right, March 4th. So we're March 15th. So we're almost 2 weeks out, or just under 2 weeks of that injury type of thing, which makes me, and the fact that they say that he's out indefinitely makes me wonder that's probably more of a second-degree sprain than your typical first-degree sprain. Assuming that it's just your typical ankle sprain, usually, like I said, you're out anywhere between 10 to 14 days. The fact that we're coming up to 14 days and he's out indefinitely, and if he hasn't returned to practice, I anticipate he has more of a second-degree sprain. I anticipate he's going to probably be out a total probably anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks. So I expect him out probably the rest of March, and hopefully return by early April.
Okay. So if they make the playoffs, he should be able to make some type of return.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much it, because everybody else is
load management
and not on a playoff team, so they're load management.
Yeah.
So
all right then. So
let's go ahead and wrap it up.
Yep, that's a wrap for us. Again, my name is Dr. Marco Nunez, Doctor of Athletic Training. Thank you for watching us. This is Landon Buford. You can follow me on my Instagram account at Marco Nunez ATC. Landon?
You can find me at landonbuford.com, and you can also find me on all social media platforms at Landon Buford.
Thank you. If you guys have any further questions regarding players or any players that we did not discuss here, or any injuries that occur for the upcoming week, feel free to DM me on my Instagram at Marco Nunez ATC. If you like what we're doing, if you like what you're able to hear, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel so you can go ahead and get notifications every time we bring out a new video. Other than that, thank you very much, everybody. Happy St. Patrick's Day tomorrow or Friday. Yeah, tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow. It's tomorrow.
Yeah, it's tomorrow. So, all right, on that, we're out.
Yes, sir. All right, let me go ahead and cut off the recording.